We're going to call the Star City Council meeting to order. It's Tuesday, March 5th, 2024 at 7 p.m. at the Star City Council chambers. And we have the Girl Scouts troop that's going to come up here and do our Pledge of Allegiance, lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance tonight, all right? You ladies will start it, okay? Nice job, thank you. Who's got the singing voice? Is that you? That was great, thank you. And tonight's invocation is by Associate Pastor of the Calvary Star Church, Pastor Nathan Held. Past tense of hold is what he told me.
Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the privilege and the opportunity to meet together. Lord, we thank you that we live in a country where we have the freedom to be able to meet the way that we do. We pray, Lord Jesus, for our city council. Lord, we pray that you grant them wisdom, Lord. We pray for our mayor, Lord, as they lead us into the future, Lord, that you grant them wisdom, insight, discernment, Lord Jesus. Lord, I pray that you bless this meeting. I pray all the topics that will be addressed, Lord Jesus. I pray that every part of it would ultimately glorify your name, because we know that when we glorify you, Lord Jesus, ultimately it's best for us, individually, as a community, and as a city, Lord. So we pray that you bless this meeting, every part of it. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Okay, roll call.
Kevin Wheelock.
Here.
Trevor Chadwick.
Here.
Jennifer Salmonson.
Here.
And Hershey's online.
David Hershey.
I'm here.
Okay.
I-
And
looking
so
good.
I'm gonna let everybody know, we got a kind of for tonight's council meeting, it's gonna be kind of crazy a little bit. I'm just gonna let you know, Councilman Hershey's online right now, but his father-in-law just passed away, so he's gonna unjoin us about 8 o'clock. Councilman Nielsen will be coming in about 8 because he's busy with a work thing that'll be here. So Hershey's gonna help us out for a little bit, and then we're gonna take a break until Wheelock, he's sitting right here. Until Nielsen can get in there. So if you could pray for the Hershey family as well, guys, because we're talking within the last hour that just happened with them. So, okay. But tonight we're going to start with our proclamation. It's Girl Scout Week. So I'm gonna read the proclamation. I'll sign it, and then us up here on the bench will come down here with you ladies, and we'll do a picture with the proclamation down here. Right, Ms. Dana? Am I correct? Okay. Make sure I'm on track there. All right. The City of Star, Idaho proclamation, whereas March 12th marks the 112th anniversary of Girl Scouts of the USA, founded by Juliette Gordon Low in 1912 in Savannah, Georgia. And whereas throughout its long and distinguished history, Girl Scouting has inspired millions of girls and women with the highest ideals of character, conduct, and patriotism, including the 6,000 current members of the Girl Scouts of Silver Sage. And whereas Girl Scouts of Silver Sage provides a space for its Girl Scouts to dream big, be themselves, and find adventure, they have made a difference in our community for many years. And whereas every girl deserves the opportunity to thrive, and through its programming, Girl Scouts of Silver Sage works to ensure girls in our communities know they can do anything they put their minds to doing, and encourage them to feel empowered and embrace their unique strengths. And whereas more than 2.6 million current Girl Scout members nationwide will be celebrating 112 years of this American tradition, with nearly 50 million women who are former Girl Scouts and living proof of the impact of this amazing movement. Now, therefore, I, Trevor A. Chadwick, by the authority vested in me as mayor of the City of Star, do hereby applaud the commitment Girl Scouting has made to America's girls, and proudly proclaim the week of Sunday, March 10th as Girl Scouts Week. Signed this 5th day of March, 2024. So congratulations to the Girl Scouts. And I will tell you, March 12th is a great day too. That's my 30th wedding anniversary this year. So we can double celebrate that, right? So good job, ladies. And thank you for coming. And let's have you all come up here, and we'll do some pictures. Who's doing it? Who's the boss? Awesome. Good job. Thank you so much. You betcha. Oh, no, you keep that, right? They keep that? Yep, that's yours.
David will Photoshop you in.
We'll Photoshop David in, yeah. We'll move on to so thank you, ladies. So we'll move on to item 5, the consent agenda.
Mayor Chadwick,
Councilwoman Solomon?
I move that we approve the consent agenda consisting of item 5A, the claims, and 5B, approval of minutes for February 20th, 2024, and January 16th, 2024, and that we pull item 5C, the final plat, for the next council meeting.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Wheelock,
Aye.
Salmonson,
Aye.
Hershey.
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries. Thank you. We're going to move on to item 6, our public hearings and action items. We're going to start with A, because that shouldn't take too long. B and C and D, we're going to do starting at 8 o'clock, just so everybody's aware, okay? So the public hearing for item 6A, the utility easement vacation for Trapper Ridge subdivision. And just so everybody's clear, if you want to sign up to speak at any public hearing, you need to sign up on the table out there. There's some sheets for, against, and neutral. I will open the public hearing and I'll ask the council if there's any ex parte contact or communication. Sean will do a little quick presentation, and the applicant has up to 20 minutes to present their project. The council can ask applicant questions and staff questions during that time frame. Public testimony is 3 minutes per person, and the council may ask you questions as well during that. That doesn't count towards your 3 minutes. The applicant has a rebuttal time of 10 minutes, and the council can ask the applicant and staff questions. Then I'll close the public hearing. The council will deliberate, and a motion is made to either approve with conditions, deny, or table the application to a date certain in the future. So with that said, it is 7:00. Couple seconds there, right? It's 7:08, and we're going to open the public hearing on the utility easement vacation for Trapper Ridge subdivision. I'm going to ask the council if they have any ex parte contact or communication regarding this.
None.
Okay, hearing none. Sean, the floor is yours.
Mr. Mayor, you have before you application request for vacation of utility easements for the Trapper Ridge subdivision, also known as the New Hope subdivision. Development is located at 11650 West New Hope Road. Staff has reviewed this application for compliance with the requirements of the Unified Development Code and the Comprehensive Plan, and finds that all the legal noticing and proper application materials have been submitted, including the sign-off letters from the public agencies having authority over those easements. Staff is recommending approval of this utility request. The applicant is not here this evening. This is a standard request for easement vacation. I don't see any reason why the council can't approve this without the applicant being present. I can stand for any questions and try to direct staff or direct the council if you do have any questions about the.
So does anybody have any questions of staff at this time? Oh, thought that sigh was you're going to have a question. Hey, do we have anybody that signed up on the sheets there?
No, sir.
No one signed up? Okay. This is your time to ask the staff questions before we close it. And all right, hearing none, I'm going to close the public hearing then at 7:10. I told you this would be an easy one. And then move to council deliberation and or action.
Mayor Chadwick.
Councilwoman?
Yeah, this seems fairly simple. There's no, it fits with from what I see, it meets the requirements, standards, and intent of the comprehensive plan and our zoning ordinance, and so I'm supportive of this. Did anybody else have anything they want to add? If not, I can make a motion.
Everything I read, everybody was on board with it, all the public agencies and had done their homework as well. So I'm in favor.
Mr. Mayor and Council, staff would just like to point out that in our new rewrite of the development code, we're gonna be taking this out of being a public hearing just because it's such a standard, it's something we can handle administratively. We just haven't done it yet. So I just wanted to point that out that you will not be seeing these in the future as a public hearing.
Okay.
And Sean, do we need to include the conditions of approval with the motion?
Yes.
Okay. All right, then I will make a motion to approve this utility easement vacation for Trapper Ridge subdivision with the conditions of approval as noted in our packet.
Okay, we got a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion, a second by Councilman Wheelock. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Wheelock.
Aye.
Salmonson.
Aye.
Hershey.
Aye.
Yeah, that motion carries. Thank you. Okay, we're going to jump around a little bit. We're going to go down to 7A, the 5-year integrated work plan. Sean, can you pull that one up for me? And this is an action item. This is not a public hearing. So every year we go through steps to try to put projects in place for ACHD to consider doing in our city. We do have all these lists of projects, 2 pages worth, lists of projects that our transportation committee has reviewed and made suggestions on the order of importance on here. If you look here on the top, it's got roads and intersections, and then it's got community programs. And then I think on the second page, it has projects that, let's see, maybe the third page, sorry. Let's go to the third page. The third page has projects that are actually programmed. And so we'll start with this one. We have been pushing hard to get the Star Road and Star Road Bridge completed here in Star now versus 2035, which they originally had scheduled with ACHD. So we are keeping everything in the same order, 1, 2, 3, and then those community programs are already programmed here in the city of Star. And you can see the different, so 1, 2, 3 is the Star Road broken into 3 different phases. One's the bridge, obviously we have to have that done. And then the Star Road being improved between the Boise River and Highway 44, and then from Highway 2026 to the Boise River as number 3. They may combine them all together if the funding allows, but they may have to spread them out year by year, just depending on what happens there. Then the community programs on the collector and roadways, we're going to leave them as they're programmed. You can see some different things that they have scheduled on here. They have a Pollard Lane, Floating Feather Road, Star Middle School, where they want to construct curb gutter, sidewalk, and bike lanes on Pollard Lane between Floating Feather and Beacon Light. They had that design year for this year with the right-of-way acquisition in 2025 and construction year of 2026. The Munger Road Bridge, each bridge has a number. I can't remember exactly which one this one is, but it's on Munger Road. Looks like there's 2 bridges there where they're going to widen those bridges to align with the roadways and create safe crossings for pedestrians on the sidewalks. Again, that's 2024 for the design year. This year, 2025, they'll have to purchase right away if necessary. And then 2026 will be construction. Then we have Munger Road Bridge 1462. That one's actually construction year sometime this year. That's already in the plan where they're going to widen that one bridge with roadways and create safe crossings for pedestrians on the sidewalks. And then we have a Palmer Lane Bridge 1009 where we widen the bridge to align with roadways and create safe crossings for pedestrians. Again, that one's a program to be constructed this year. A lot of times these bridge projects you're not going to see happen until the winter. Just so everybody's aware when the water is out of these canals. Okay. So you're probably going to see this start probably in late October, November, depending on when water comes out of those canals, is my guess. Then we have a floating feather bridge, 2028 to complete floating feather road with bike lanes, curb gutter, borrow ditches, and detached sidewalk on both sides between Munger Road and Star Road. Project includes bridge number 068, bridge widening, south pathway development. So they've already had this design. We're supposed to get the right-of-way last year and have it programmed for 2025 construction. Whether that's the spring of 2025 or the fall, we don't know that detail yet. Then we have floating feather road between Hornback and Pollard Lane. Construct sidewalks on north side of floating feather road between Hornback Avenue and Pollard. They have this design year 2023 right away this year with construction next year. This one here is actually one that they've met with us recently on to try. They may try to push this up because we have the pathway to the school going right now to try to help funnel some of those kids that way. Then we have the Star Road between Highway 44 and Boise River. It's constructing a detached sidewalk on the west side of Star Road. They did a lot of survey work and stuff this last year. They have to purchase some right-of-way for this, which they're going to do this year and next year. And then in 2026 is their current plan to start the construction on that. And we have floating feather road between Munger and Star Road. Yeah, Munger, I had to think about that for a minute. As part of the Floating Feather Bridge 2028 project scheduled to be built, they're going to look at doing these improvements in 2026. Floating Feather Road between Star Road and Pollard Lane, they're planning on doing those in 2025. Looks like they've already done the design on these and right-of-way acquisitions for that. And then Munger Road between Floating Feather Road and Short Creek. Looks like they're going to, as part of that, they're going to do a road bridge replacement. I believe they may have done some of this already and on those two bridges and add a scope of the project to complete the pedestrian network, which they may still have to do on there in 2026. So those are things that are currently programmed with ACHD. Sean, if you can go back up. Oh, and then I'm sorry, go down one more. So then we removed this project on Floating Feather Road from Brandon Road to Hornback because they completed this last year when they had Floating Feather Road shut down. They added it into some of the stuff they're doing on Munger. I mean, yeah, on Brandon over there. Scroll back up for me on the top. So some of the things that we're looking at on these projects, on the community programs, we're asking them to put a lighted pedestrian crossing at Hidden Brook and Star Road. That's the road. That's the location that takes you to the Pavilion Park, where the dog park, the splash pad, the pickleball courts, basketball courts would be. So we want to be able to get the pedestrians and the kids across that area safely. And then we have install a pedestrian crossing at the intersection of Plummer Road and Floating Feather Road. They're actually already in design of that. They're trying to get this pushed up because we have that pedestrian or the safe sidewalk to the school that we're building through the cemetery with the agreement we have with them and the partnership we have with them and the two adjoining neighbors behind that. And then if you go down where we're listing number 3 as Plummer Road, State Street, Floating Feather Road. So that's a whole, we're asking them to get movement on that, which is constructing curb gutter sidewalks and bike lanes on Plummer Road. But it also include, we're asking in the blue, that they include the traffic light intersection reconfiguration at Highway 44 and Plummer, because that's a dangerous intersection, even with people heading southbound, making a left turn and people coming straight. So we're trying to get that program to get done. Item number 4 that we've suggested to do is Floating Feather Road from Star Road to Munger Road, where they're doing curb gutter sidewalks and widen that to the 3 lanes. Number 5 is more Floating Feather Road from Star Road to Pollard. Number 6 is Pollard Lane to Star Middle School to Beacon Light Road. Widen it to 3 lanes with curb gutter, detached sidewalks, and bike lanes. And if you look over there in the black, Pollard Lane is a collector roadway. It would be completed by development under a community program is what they're saying. We all know that Pollard's painful when Star Middle School is going in and out of school when you're taking kids there. So they're trying to get that done, but they've got some challenges with like the ditch and stuff on the side that they got to work through.
That's the one that's going through the cemetery. Is that the ditch they're having a problem with?
Yeah, the ones that go, well, no, the one that runs up and down Pollard, that drain ditch
Just that
for the floods out of the foothills. Yeah.
south.
Yep, the north-south, yep. Then we have Brandon Road between New Hope and Floating Feather that we're asking to widen that to 3 lanes, with detached sidewalks and bike lanes. Then if you look at the eight A, B, C, D, E's, that's Beacon Light Road, all the way to New Hope, Munger, that we're trying to get them to put, level 2 and 3 bike facilities be added in both directions just for safe bike travel. If any of you have grown up here in Star for the last 25 years, people utilize those routes a ton for for road biking and stuff like that. So we need to figure out, and they're still using it today, we need to figure out a way with all the traffic we have to get them around safely as well. If you scroll up, Sean, for me. We do have some road and intersection projects here that we're trying to get done to. Number 4, which is after our Star Road project. We're looking at Floating Feather between Munger and Pollard, widen to 3 lanes. We have extending Floating Feather between Munger and Canada. We want to connect that all the way to Canada, so we have another arterial going east and west to alleviate the traffic on New Hope up there. Number 6 would be Canada Road between Highway 44 and Floating Feather to include a signal light at 44 and Canada, which we're also asking for an extension for a southbound connection into, whether development does it or they do it, into Bent Lane over there. Then we have Canada Road between Floating Feather and New Hope. Same thing, the widening, we have to break those out a little bit. Then we have the Beacon Light Road, Wing Road widening between Canada and Highway 16. And then broken out into several sections as well. And then we're asking on the south of the river for Star Road, Joplin intersection improvements along with the traffic signal right there. Because with the development that's happening down Joplin roads on both sides, we have a safety issue, especially coming off that hill with traffic coming on the Star Road. So these are all the projects that we've been pushing and working with ACHD to try to get programmed. Our transportation committee's looked at these and has ranked order these. So I need the city council to approve this so I can write a letter and send this off to the ACHD. And so I'll stand for some questions.
I'd like to go back to the State Street between the widening of 4 lanes.
Here?
Yeah.
So that's not part of ACHD. That's an ITD thing.
None of that-
None of that
Back to
applies to
Are we
ACHD.
on any calendar for them?
2025 to 2026. Yes, we're on the calendar.
Because we're
They-
affecting the light on one of these.
Well, you're affecting the light up.
Plumber light. I was
Right.
wondering if that was going to be part of it.
That's not part of ITD's widening of that road because they're not intending to reconfigure Plummer Road intersection there. That's part of their project. Now, the light that's going at Moyle is being designed to being designed to fit the widening that's going to happen, so they don't have to reconfigure that. It's all being reconfigured towards that widening.
Once instead of
Yeah,
twice.
right.
Nice
Yep.
plan.
Any other questions?
No, I have attended many of the transportation committee meetings and we've gone over this quite a bit. And so, I think it's ready for approval, for recommendation. I'm
Okay.
good with it.
Hershey, do you have any questions?
No, I like it.
Okay. And I'm just telling you guys, we've been working our tail off to get stuff programmed for the city of Star, try to get stuff happening. So it's nice to see that stuff on here that we're working on with them. So,
Mayor Chadwick,
Councilwoman?
can you explain just for some that may not know? So you work with ACHD, right? But that doesn't guarantee that these projects are going to get done.
No,
So can you just explain?
how we get them done?
Uh-huh.
So we have to really sit with so I meet with our commissioner every month and we talk about these things. I take them out on drives. I've invited their staff to come out. They bring a van, we'll drive around. I'll show them exactly what's happening in the city with our traffic and our traffic flows and really try to push and advocate to get this done. The problem we're seeing right now is a lot of this at work and stuff is being done in Boise instead of out here in these other areas, right? There's only certain roads that are allowed to have impact fees, and those are arterials and bridges to be utilized to pay for that. ACHD, since we started really pushing on this, has really stepped up their game a little bit to try to help us out. But it's going to take a lot more advocating. And when they do a public, this stuff will go to ACHD, then they'll do a public outreach. It's important for the citizens of Star to jump on board and provide public input to get this stuff done. Because the more the public says stuff, the more the more love that they'll show us, I think, out here. I'd like to get all 18,000 people out there to send a note. That means kids are doing it too, but whatever, right? It all impacts them. That way we can get this stuff completed.
Yeah, and that city, right, the city puts that online, like, public comment on their website. And so do you know what time of the year that
Yeah,
is?
I don't have my sheet on here on that, but I
But
know,
they do look at all of the comments, so
Yep.
highly recommend all of you, to, if you want to see things done, your voices are very loud too, so please
loud, but you could be louder.
participate.
on that. All right. Any other questions on that? Because I'd entertain a motion on that. To approve this as is, or to send this to
Yep.
the ACHD.
Mayor Chadwick,
Councilwoman,
I move that we make, you make the recommendation of the integrated work plan for the City of Star projects to be included in that Ada County Highway District Plan.
okay.
I'll second.
We had a motion and a second by Councilman Wheelock. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Wheelock,
Aye.
Salmonson,
Aye.
Hershey.
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries. Thank you. We'll get that sent off tomorrow to them. We're going to move on to 7B. I will tell you, Councilman Nielsen just said that he is on his way. So after this 7B, we're going to take a short recess until he gets there. So Councilman Hershey can attend to the family matters that he has. So 7B is a resolution for asset disposal, and I have Jacob talk about this.
So this is the photocopier that had been in use downstairs here before, and Shane, our IT director, replaced it. And then the Water Sewer District with the state of Idaho has requested to
Not
purchase it.
sewer, the water
Oh,
district.
sorry, Water
Water
District.
District 63.
63,
Yep.
which is across the hall from his office. And so it's up to the council to turn around and declare it surplus and dispose of it in that manner, if you
And
so
was there an
choose.
amount?
I believe it's $1,000.
$1,000 to purchase it from us, yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Wheelock.
I make a motion that we approve resolution 2024-010, asset disposal, and in the amount that has been discussed and approved of $1,000.
Okay, we got a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We got a motion, a second. Any further discussion?
Nope.
Hearing none, roll call.
Wheelock,
Aye.
Salmonson,
Aye.
Hershey.
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on. We're going to actually move on. We're at 7:29. We're going to take a short recess until Councilman Nielsen can get here. And Councilman Hershey, prayers to your family. And thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you. I'll keep you informed as to what goes on.
Okay, thank you.
Right. Take care all.
Okay. It's 7:37 and we're going to resume our city council meeting. And we're going to move on to item 6B, which is the public hearing on 10206 West State Street Development Agreement modification. I am going to open the public hearing and ask the council if they have any ex parte or contact or communication regarding this project.
No. None.
Oh, I'm sorry. Before I start that, I need to make sure that everybody's aware that at 7:37, Councilman Nielsen had joined us for the hearing and Councilman Hershey has left us for the hearing. Okay. Hearing none. It's 7:38. I'm opening the public hearing. And Sean, do you have, I already read that at the beginning. You have a presentation for this one?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. Yeah, before you this evening, a request for a development agreement modification, DA-20-16, for 10206 West State Street. Applicant is requesting modification of the DA to remove minimum overall square footage of the commercial building space Development is located again at 10206 West State. All application requirements for this public hearing have been met by the applicant. Property is located on the north side of State Street between Seneca Springs and Taurus.
Okay, that's it. All right, and do we have the applicant here? All right, sir, go ahead. I'll have you come up here, state your name and address, please, for the record. Oh, and I meant to let everybody know, we got a clock up here on the left side that'll have the timing on there, so you can keep track of that yourself. But you have
Okay.
20 minutes to present. I'm not sure if you need it, but you have 20 minutes to present, sir. So we'll start with your name and address first.
Tony Matero, 10206 West State Street.
Is that green light on that?
Yes.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Sean. All right.
Okay, yeah, but go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, no problem. All right, good evening, everybody. Thank you for this meeting. And so we're requesting a development agreement modification. So back in November of 21, we agreed to a minimum square footage for the commercial part. So you'll see on the site plan, the commercial 4 buildings in the front. There was a minimum square footage of 33,300 square feet of commercial space. And so we agreed to that, and then we started the design process for the front 2 retail buildings, which at that point we were designing 2-story buildings. And those 2 front buildings were about roughly 24,000. So in order to achieve the 33,000, which was already a tight space, there was already quite a bit of, well, let's just say like the parking, which is obviously important to STAR, the parking ratios, it was already tight just to try to achieve that 33,300 square feet of commercial space. But we designed these and we got them all the way through building permits. And back in November 21, it's a very different market than it was back then. And so we were trying to get our financing in order and everything. And basically based on economic conditions, we're unable to achieve that in order to start construction. And so there's kind of 3 different components to this. So one, basically economically, right? So as you guys are probably aware, construction costs have increased quite a bit, 20-40%, haven't really retreated. Interest rates have doubled, right? So from like 5 to 6 to 9 to 12%. The commercial lease rates have been relatively flat, maybe slightly declining in some uses. And so what we're proposing is if we take away that minimum square footage requirement, that those front 2 buildings, which we've designed and already have building permits sitting in the city of Star, basically chopping off the 2nd story because the cost of steel and the elevator, everything we were trying to do was super expensive. And so we're asking to remove that requirement so that we can basically do single level, which is also very conducive with the city of Star. I mean, you don't see anywhere downtown Star 2-story commercial buildings. And so we're working with TOK, who's very active in this market, and they agree that single-story retail would do very well here. And so basically from that's what we're asking for. And also, which we know from previous experience, parking has also been very important with the city of Star. And so before, with our current minimum square footage requirement, we were at 2.55 per 1,000 square feet. And with the proposed DA mod, the parking ratio increases to a healthier 3.5 to 1,000. And I think we agreed to a future cross parking arrangement with the neighbor to the left or to the right. And so that would basically alleviate that as well, because we'd be able to achieve the 4 buildings that we're looking to build and have better parking ratios. And so, yeah, I think with that, that's pretty much what I wanted to say. We also provided you guys with a site elevation design. So we're really trying to mirror the design characteristics that we had before to make it look really nice. And that also fits with the design standards for Star. And, but as you can see, they're 1-story versus 2-story. So this is basically what we're proposing to do for those front 2 buildings. And we'd like to get started as soon as possible. And based on this and removing that minimum square footage, we believe it's economically viable for us to proceed as soon as possible.
Okay. You ready for questions?
Yeah.
Okay, any questions from council to the applicant? Councilman Wheelock?
Yeah, I'll go. I was a big proponent of more parking in the
Yes, you.
November hearing. But I also loved the building that you were proposing.
Yeah.
And how do we meet the middle of this and still have that iconic look for Modern Mountain? This is a beautiful building, don't get me wrong, but it's much more plain than what you were proposing. Can we find a happy medium there so that you still have a standout building that we can look forward to?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, this was just a initial take from, you guys know Jeff Likes, he does a lot of projects around here. This was just an initial take for this meeting. By all means, we're not necessarily committing to this, but we still, yeah, we would love to achieve that. And I agree with you 100%. You know, it was the cost of the steel and the elevator and everything that just, I mean, really made it not feasible. So we are open to suggestions on, you know, the look of it or how to modify that to meet it, because yeah, absolutely, we want that. I mean, we want it to stand out.
So would you, I'm gonna ask him a question while we're here, but it still has to go through a design review committee
Correct.
here with the city of Star. If you put something in there on what you want to see, then the committee can look at it, I guess, right, Sean? Yeah.
I'm looking at this one versus what you had, you know, the beautiful patios on the second floor. However that ends up looking, I'm not a design professional, but that was for sure a great look that you had. And whatever that takes to come up with some style that stands out to me, I would leave to the design people.
For the front two buildings.
For the front two buildings. The back,
Correct.
look this. But,
Yeah, and
but I would love them to stand out.
Yeah, yeah, and we, if you look at the site plan here, so there, because it's single story, we were already planning on whether it was 2-story or single story to do patios, outdoor patios in between the walkways there, in between the two retails on the front. So we will have that. I don't know if we can do rooftop, you know, patios on that. We'd have to work with Jeff on that. I'm not a design expert either. But, you know, I agree with you. If we're able to obviously make it look the best as possible, but also just cut off that second floor, I really believe that we can get there.
That would be my
Okay.
my piece of that puzzle. Is I would love it to see jazzed up a bit.
Mayor Chadwick.
Councilman Nielsen.
So maybe before we get too far into, let's go ahead and take out that second story. I want to think back to where the square footage minimum came from in the first place. And really this, you know, it started out as it's really a mixed use development, right? So it's in the CBD zone, some other things that go into that, but really that was a ratio of residential to commercial that was contemplated in our code. And so number one, for staff, I want to understand if we've looked at that ratio and what we're considering, you know, just check on what we're considering here. But we also placed a condition that the residential component can't be started or built until the front commercial is.
Sort of, yeah. You can start it, but you can't complete it. I think you can only go up to like 50%.
Right.
But our plan, we haven't even gone through, we got preliminary plat for the residential. Our plan was to basically go with the city of Star, to start with the commercial frontage first and go back.
Right. Understood.
Yeah.
And look, one of the reasons that we started to do that with folks is because we're lacking that commercial element.
Correct.
And so as an incentive, which really made sense in the market at the time, as an incentive to get the commercial in first, that's really what was driving that. So what I'd like to explore is keeping the 33,000 square foot requirement, keeping that 2-story, that amazing design, which I think is truly going to be iconic in the city of Star. And if we can, you know, take away that requirement or that restriction on the residential, allow that to come in first and help, you know, reduce some, or at least maybe take away some of the impetus to do the commercial right now when the market's not quite as conducive, and let you do that residential in the back. It might change the whole financial equation for you.
Is it okay if my partner too, the other?
Yeah, he can come up here. Yeah,
He's the
and
finance.
Just state your name and address for the record, absolutely.
Ed McLaughlin, 10206 West State Street. I hear that comment, but the way the costs have risen on the. What's that?
Sorry, I wasn't looking for a but there.
No, you're not.
We agree that it's an iconic look, but as Tony mentioned, it's economically infeasible at this point. The way construction costs have risen, although some materials and things like that have come down a little bit, we've set new floors on labor and certain materials. And so what we can achieve on the income side for retail rent or commercial rent, especially on that second floor, we can't make the numbers work from a lending perspective in order to build at that density, given the materials that we have to use with steel, has to be an elevator building, all the other things that we have to do. It's driven up the cost per square foot on construction where we've been trying for 12 or 18 months to make it work with various tenants. We've had multiple groups through that space, but we haven't been able to achieve enough interest on the leasing side as well as construction costs to come down enough where what we can get on the income side matches up with what it's going to take to build those buildings if they're 2 stories.
And yet the townhomes in the back are going to continue to be 2-story. Is that correct?
That's much different and less complex construction. Yeah.
I understand that.
Yeah.
But part of the commercial 2-story out front is also a blocking. It's also the facade and the appearance as you come in.
Single story buildings are 26 feet tall. So because with the higher ceilings on the retail, plus the space that you have for all of your building systems, plus what is the parapet for? A 5-foot parapet as Jeff has it drawn. So to that point, I think you'll still have a pretty nice, and we can certainly work on the design buffer for what's going to be happening on the north side. So these are not going to be short. We want them to stand out. But when you add that second floor and you have to build in all these building components, it becomes quite challenging.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
And I'm really attached to that original design
Sure.
and the concept of what was going to go in there and how that would really contribute to our community and be a destination. I think it's much less of a destination. You're looking at a completely different tenant and a completely different experience for what was really contemplated, not just in the lot that you're in, but all of those surrounding lots as well. It changes everything.
Sure.
Honestly, I've tried.
Sorry, me too. I need you to talk on that microphone, please.
Yeah, we have been trying. I mean, like we've explored so many options. I mean, and it all comes down to, the potential tenants, like potential restaurants, like even going upstairs, their ability to afford what the rent is going to need to be. We went through several banks, private financing. I mean, we've ran into dead ends basically with the ratios, and that's strictly commercial. That's not residential. That has nothing to do. We're focused strictly on the commercial piece, and it has to be viable in order for us to get the financing we need to start. I mean, we've had these building permits now sitting in the city of Star for, it hasn't been since November, but at least a year, maybe even longer. And we're basically ready to go. We just need the financing. And that's the part that really, the interest rates, and then not to mention the costs, that really has put us on hold. And so we want to just try to get moving as fast as possible and work with you guys. But trust me, we love that design and we believe that would be great. But unfortunately, with the economy changing as quickly as it has, like we weren't in control of that. And so that's just kind of where we're at. And we're just asking for, some help so we can get started.
And what happens if the economy changes just as quickly and goes the other way? We're coming up on one of those potential shifts here in the next year anyway. So why not focus on the residential now, put a pin in this for a little bit and see what happens?
The challenge with that is on just purely from a cost perspective, they've got to come down 30-40% before it'll pencil, and that's not going to happen.
You're focused on material costs and and that assumes that the market stays flat as far as rentals, leases, tenant interest and things like that. But the nature of a market changing is that all of those components change, not just your material cost.
understood, but I think there's a pretty significant barrier there. And I don't think anybody expects it to come down to the level it was 24 to 36 months ago.
Yeah, for sure.
So that's
Yeah.
the hard part. And yeah, sure, the market can change, but what we have in front of us right now is that if we're able to execute on well-designed single-story retail buildings, we can get those front two commercial done, the site can start, and it can be something that the city of Star and us can be proud of.
Do you get the idea that I'm less concerned about when it starts than?
I know, but
What the
I guess
outcome
I'm
is.
gonna step in, Mr. Councilman, if I
Yeah,
can.
go for it.
I think we run into a challenge because we do not have a connecting street in the back anyway for that. So you're gonna put all this cost in to do site development in the front, which is gonna make you increase costs on the backside, which is, I think it's gonna make it more difficult. And coming from this world, from the construction world, we've never, in the 16 years that I did that, seen labor prices ever drop during that time frame. They always stay the same or continue to increase. And so even if the economy went down a little bit, you're probably going to see more layoff than anything. And I don't see labor prices going down. I really don't. I mean, that's what we experienced back in 2008 and 9 timeframe with the commercial aspect of construction. But I look at it and I think there could be a happy medium in there. I would love to have that 2-story thing there as well. I just don't know if it's feasible in today's world or even in the future world. I do know that there's a gentleman locally that's a restaurant guy that because of the cost on that facility, he couldn't do it. He flat out said, "There's no way I can afford to put my building or my business in here at the cost that it was going to cost him to try to lease that space out on there." And I think we're going to run ourselves into a problem if we're expecting builders to build something that's not going to be economically feasible for anybody to lease. We're just having an empty facility and somebody that's going to go bankrupt, in the long run. I mean, that to me is you got to find the happy medium with that in the long term, I think, for our community. I would love to see it. That's why I think what Councilman Wheelock was saying is how do we design that front of that to make it stand out versus what it looked like on the picture that they showed, right? On there. So that's just my 2 cents there, Councilman. And I get what you're saying. I totally get it.
Is it okay if I add another comment based on what you were just saying, Mayor?
Yes.
Yeah, not to mention, I mean, with the Micron expansion, the Meta, there was an article even today just about the supply of labor and contractors and everything like that. I mean, those are massive, massive projects that are going to pull. So there's going to be limited resources available. The costs are going to go up. I mean, for them to entertain like subs to get work done. I mean, it's going to be a huge cost. And then to your point about the site, for us, we have to take on the risk. We have to get the financing to start infrastructure because you need access from state. So if we started in the back, then we'd still have to do the infrastructure, move utilities, do all that, and fork in the money up front for the commercial piece to get access and to get the infrastructure needed to build it out. And so that's one of the other challenges we've been running into. So, which is why we really wanted to start on the commercial first. And so, yeah, we're happy to work with you guys as far as what the design is and get something that everybody's happy with. But honestly, we've tried a lot of different routes with this, and we do have some debt on the land. So as it's sitting, we're just accruing interest. So to your point, Mayor, like the longer this goes on, like it just can't go on forever. Like we have a clock that's ticking and we'd like to get going and get it done. But unfortunately, if it sits too long, then we're going to have to figure out another solution.
Any follow-up questions? Councilman? No? No? Okay. Anybody else have questions or comments? Sean? Were you able to answer his question though about what he was asking? About your question was about the.
Question was
percentage?
about the ratio of residential to commercial.
For my recollection, Mr. Mayor and Council, it was the amount on the site plan, which hasn't changed. I don't know if it was the square footage of one versus the other, the residential versus the commercial.
So is the percentage based on the amount of land versus the amount of square footage?
I believe that's how we looked at it when we approved this originally.
Okay.
So I'm curious then, why was there a minimum square footage? Because that doesn't make sense. We've never done a minimum square footage that I recall, except for something like this.
Can I think I have.
If you have the
answer it.
picture on that.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So I remember when we met earlier, we were concerned with, obviously Star needs commercial, right? That was the priority. And we were also talking about the mixed use component of the residential. And so that minimum square footage for the commercial was kind of that negotiation in a sense to ensure that this didn't turn into just more residential, that we did commit to a certain threshold of commercial, because that's really what Star needed. I mean, there's a lot of single family development going on in the area and all of that. And so that's really where that came from. Back in.
Yeah, and that is consistent with what I recall as well. I mean, you guys weren't the first applicants that brought this. You're like the second or maybe third.
Yeah, second to my knowledge, when we bought it, it was entitled already.
Yeah.
Correct. And so we've been working for probably 3 years? 3 years now
Well,
on it.
and where I was going with that is there's always been pressure to reduce the commercial up front. From the time this started coming to us, not just from you guys, but the previous applicants, there was always pressure to increase the residential and really minimize that commercial footprint up front. And even, we contemplated the future retail and office in there. Originally, it was like 2 buildings that came to us. And so this kind of continual pressure, and I don't know what it is about this particular lot, but the pressure is to minimize that. So maybe the whole thing needs to be rethought.
I think we're not trying to do anything with the residential at this point. Like we're totally fine with that. We're not trying to necessarily reduce the commercial square footage to like nil. We still have the lot split. We went through the lot split for 4 commercial parcels. It is possible that those back spots could be second story. I mean, it just depends on what the market does at that time. But for where we're at, I mean, as far as long as we've took it from the design review process and have building permits to build those front 2 buildings, like we can't get that approved. And we did the 2-story based on that square footage requirement. And that already impacted parking and everything, like I mentioned before. So I think, if there's some happy medium, but the 33,300 commercial square footage minimum is really a challenge for that, basically 2 and some change acre parcel. From a parking perspective, from a development perspective, to make it economically feasible, like that's the challenge we're running into.
So what is the square footage now when you take off the top?
So if we were to do it the easiest, simplest way, obviously we could change the elevation and what the look of it is, but they're basically like 6,000 square feet each. So that's about 12,000. And then previously we had about 10,500 ish in the back, right? Something around there for the back 2 buildings, which, can give or take. So what is that? That's 12 plus 10,000. That's like 22. That's like 22.5, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, it's not like we're trying to reduce it to where it's like, hey, we're just going to try to get rid of commercial. We know Star needs it, but it's more of a matter of being able to make it all pencil to where we can get the lease rates right, to get the tenants in there, to get the financing we need to build it, and all of that.
Okay. Any further questions of the council at this time?
I'll just ask one more if that's all right.
Yep, Councilman Nielsen?
So previously you'd contemplated the restaurant would be out there up in front, right?
We still do. Yeah.
You still contemplate that would be it.
Oh, yeah. Hopefully 1 or 2. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and they might take 2 spaces. So we're looking at, if we're able to do that, ideally it'd be nice to have 1 or 2. We're still keeping the same theme of what we're trying to attract for tenants, like a good local, like small businesses, restaurants, things like that. And so, yeah, if those are 6,000 square feet, we've had some potential restaurant users. One, Mr. Mayor was mentioning that we're looking at 4,000 square feet spaces. We can always change the footprint and make them bigger, make them have most of that unit or more. But it's just about us being able to take that requirement off. So like, as far as the tenants we're after, we're not looking to change that.
Yeah.
It's not going to be like the Ridleys or the Albertsons or anything like that. We're looking for more small businesses. And we're working with TOK, right? And so these guys are experts in the area and everything. And so we've had quite a few potential tenants. And so there will be a lot of interest. It just has to be feasible. And so they're really hoping that, we can get this through as well, because we do have some people that are potentially looking into it, but it's hard. It's like the chicken or the egg. They're not willing to commit because of the current lease rates, and we haven't been able to start. And so they want to see dirt being moved. They want to see things before they'll commit.
Is there any consideration for other uses like a live work?
So we do have the N3 that are where you see future First Street. Those 3 units are live work.
Right.
Yep. So that's per our development agreement. So yeah, that's still the plan. That nothing's changed
I
there.
understand, but we're talking about the ones up front.
We haven't considered that. I don't know if there's really.
I mean, that takes the elevator requirement away. That takes the steel requirement away.
But I don't know if that's I mean, if we're trying to attract restaurant stuff like they're doing, that live work is not going to work for that concept.
Yeah. Oh, I get that. Yeah.
I mean, I would rather see a single level thing like this with restaurants and then push the live work in the back like we did on Chris Todd's stuff. How his is laid out over there.
Yeah, and that's similar. That's similar to what we have with the residential there. Those 3 N1s are live work. And then I had a meeting with a potential purchaser of the back, or they were sharing this vision of having like kind of a live work scenario in the back too, like in one of the back, like a back building, which there's possibilities for that. It may go 1, 2 stories, maybe even 3, but that's still a ways out. Like we can't really guarantee that. And then we're also like working on the front too. That's the furthest along we are with it. And so there is potentials for that, but it's just the minimum square footage requirement is the one that's killing us. And we may even achieve it at some point. We don't know. We don't know what those back 2 are going to be depending on the user. But for us to start on the retail, because we have to do all the infrastructure for the commercial in order to move forward.
Did you have a comment or a question, Councilman?
I just wanted to, I don't love live work in the middle of that commercial. I'd rather have it be full commercial
On the front.
on the front for sure.
Any comment, Sean? Nothing? Okay, Jennifer? Go ahead. No? Kevin, any more questions at this time? I'm sure you do, but if you wanted to save them. Okay. All right. With that said, do we have anybody signed up to speak, Sean?
No, we don't.
Okay. I guess we have the Kevin show right now.
That's just the public testimony.
Finishes the public testimony. Do you have any further questions? Do you have anything else you guys want to say, I guess, on the rebuttal 10 minutes, or just continue to engage in dialogue here? Or do you have anything further to say, Kevin, or?
Well, so if I give up on where I've been going with this and say, okay, this is going to single level and still contemplating a restaurant space out in front, I'm looking at this design. We're coming up, against a sidewalk and a street. I guess the thing that I have in mind is walkability, outdoor patio space, things like that right out in front that make this kind of a city type experience and cafe type experience. What are you contemplating up front there?
Yeah, so I don't have my previous design. I'm sorry, I apologize about that. But yeah, there is a walkway. We have the glass doors, like the glass doors on the frontage, and we do have walkway that goes, and we have a very wide, if you look between the 2 retail buildings right there, it's still very wide. So there can be patio seating there, and there can be patio seating along the frontage. And there's a lot of green space as well that set back. I mean, those buildings are pretty far set back from from the street, even with the ITD requirements as far as what they're looking to do with the expansion. So there's going to be a green area, there's going to be walkability, and yeah, there could be seating on both sides, both in the center corridor as well as the frontage. So we didn't have it shown in that because like we were scrambling to try to get an elevation for you guys to see. But we can definitely work through that, especially during the design review process. And if you guys have recommendations, we're definitely willing to work with that.
So I'm going to follow up real quick, Kevin, if you're okay with that.
Yeah.
So when you're talking ITD, is this the maximum right away that ITD needs right here? That's the max, right? Okay, all right. So it won't eat into any of your frontage that you're
No.
proposing to have. Okay.
Not at all.
Just,
Nothing's
I wanna-
changing. In fact, we were trying to think what would be the simplest, quickest way that we could go through the whole redesign process. So we can get started on it. And so we didn't change the footprints of the buildings at all. We can look into doing that, but yeah, so there's still all the same patio and all of that. Like that's still all, very similar to the other. It's just more so now would be the look of the building that we would need to finalize.
I think some of it, I'm just thinking through what Councilman Nielsen's saying, but some of it is the look of the building and maybe some landscaping on that patio and stuff like that, that really makes it stand out, right? It's what you're looking at, is what I'm envisioning you're saying.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Wheelock.
I would love if we could make sure that this area here in front and is for sure not down from street level.
That is corrected
That mistake-
internally now.
That mistake has
No,
been
no,
made.
no.
It has to be built to the crown of the
That.
road.
Yeah,
Now.
yeah, and it's all landscapes
Yeah.
too. I mean, we have the elevations from our previous design that you guys could look at. I mean, we have a landscape plan, we have all of that has already been approved. We're not planning on changing that because that's minimal rework that we would have to do as it relates to landscaping and everything. So we wanted to keep pretty much everything the same and just change the building, and go through the building process.
I would say that just so that we are on the same page and not changing what we had already wanted.
Correct.
Okay. Any further questions of the applicant?
Well, I'm curious, Mayor Chadwick.
Yeah.
Councilman Wheelock, you were talking about still having patios maybe on the roof. Is that,
No.
help me understand where you were going on that.
Well, it's the patio up front, so we don't have the issue that we had at Jersey Mike's and Mountain Mike's where the building.
No, I get that, but like, and as a comment.
I just
previously.
like the look of the first design with the big patio up on the roof. I don't know that that's an option in this next version with the public and all the access and everything else that you're gonna have, trying to get away from an elevator and the cost of that. I understand. I just want it to stand out, not as basic as that is looking to me.
He wants our architecture overlay on steroids.
Me too.
That's basically what they're looking at, just so you're aware.
I think this has the option to be a new standard set as you come into Star. And if we're gonna lower the size of the building, let's raise the quality of the look. Or maintain the quality of the look that I think was there in the first one.
And I think it would be possible to do that rooftop patio without an elevator. I mean, I see other places that have done that, so.
Yeah, we'll have to get with Jeff, our architect, on that. I mean, we're planning on having the mechanical stuff up there, but maybe there's a possibility of that. I personally don't know. I'm not an architect, and don't know all that, but
I think,
way I hear your point about, trying to keep the design standards high, and we're happy to work with him on that and work with you guys in collaboration just to make sure that everybody's proud of it.
and I'm going to tell you, Councilman Nielsen, on commercial facilities on a second floor, you have ADA issues you have to accommodate. Without an elevator, you can't get ADA to the second floor.
Exactly. You just have it on the first. I mean, tell me how they do it. And there's one place I think of in Boise and another one in McCall that don't have elevators up there. So I know it's possible.
So, all right.
But look, if everybody came to us and wanted to do this, then over the next, I don't know however long this lasts, is if Star built out this way, then that's just it. I mean, you get one bite of the apple on this and it lasts for, 75, 80 to 100 years. And we put a plan in place, and this was, a bright star in that plan. And we go down this road and we continue going down this road, we're missing out on
Well,
how Stars downtown builds
I
out.
guess the challenge here is we have not put a minimum square footage on any facility anywhere else except for this one in all of Star. Right, Sean? And so there's no real way to judge if we go down the road this way on reducing it, because everything's going to come in a little bit differently based on the lots that they have, and then they create the size of buildings based on what the market conditions allow them to. This one here, we're just, for whatever reason, we put the 30, well, I get it. We put it on there at the time, we didn't have the commercial going, and we're really trying to push the commercial versus the residential on the backside. So I don't see that as a true issue right now because we haven't limited that before. I know that you would rather go up about 8 stories, but this one can't.
I was
do that.
thinking 16.
16. So, all right, any further questions of the applicant? Jennifer, do you got questions?
Just
Councilwoman?
a question, I guess. So really, like, are we talking about, so like 6,000 square feet, basically, that you'd be reducing it by taking off those 2 floors?
It's about 9,800 or 700, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's about 6,000 per floor, so that's about 12.
So 12,000.
Yeah,
And then we originally
33.
had 33.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
It's a reduction of 21,000 feet.
No,
right. It's 20,000 and some change, because like
no, it's not a reduction of 21,000 square feet.
12,000 my 33 minus 12.
it's only a reduction of 12,000. Like, those are going to be 12,000 in total now instead of
I
24,000.
appreciate that. I thought you represented they were 6,000 each. But that's the reduction of 6,000 each.
All 4 buildings.
Oh, of all 4 buildings. Okay.
No. The front 2 are 6,000 each per building. So 12,000 total. I'm only talking about the front 2.
Got it.
Yeah. So 12,000 square feet for the front 2 buildings in total.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
So minus 12,000. And yeah, I think that when we did put this in, that it really was, with that big residential in the back, that we wanted to make sure that, a large portion of this parcel would be commercial. And so that's why I'm thinking that we put that 33, because also that's the plan that came in front of us with the 2-story. So,
but
but
the large portion of this property is still commercial. It doesn't change the footprint of commercial. It's just the amount of commercial space.
And remember, we also had some parking issues
Right.
because of that minimum square footage, which has also been a big concern for Star, is to have adequate parking.
And so the height of the buildings in the back, so the residential, can you remind me what's the height of those?
There's no height restriction if
35 feet.
35.
35?
You're not going to, with a 26-foot building in the front, you will not see those 35-foot buildings in the back at the angle that you're driving.
And you would keep the cross parking with the other tenants that were coming potentially on both sides? Work to have that cross parking?
Yeah, if need be, yeah. I mean, I think our parking ratios will be much more favorable. Like before, it was because parking was tight, that we needed that as part of our agreement. But I mean, we should be able to achieve our ratios based on our current design. But I mean, we're open to that as well. Yeah, to keeping that in. We're not asking to take that away.
I think they exceed our parking threshold with the reduction.
That's great. I just want to make sure what we're losing.
Okay. Any further questions or
Record.
comments of the applicant or staff? You guys have anything you want to say at the final statement, I guess, before I close the public
Yeah, we're
hearing?
just humbly asking for it. We're really trying to get this to work. So we wouldn't be here and spend the money and the time to do this if we didn't need it.
Okay,
Appreciate it.
thank you. Further questions, just real quick, before I close it. Councilman Nielsen? You got any further questions?
No further questions.
Nope,
Councilwoman?
none.
Councilman? Okay, it is 8:18. I'm going to close the public hearing and then move on to council deliberations. Anybody? Start? Ms. Jennifer, you sighed, so you get to go
Sure,
first.
I'll go. When I first saw this, I thought, I appreciate the, you know, I am not in the building industry. I do not rent commercial space. I have no idea, how much the costs are to do that, but I did have a space here in town for a while and it's expensive. And, with the cost of everything going up, I can see why this could be an issue. I know when we originally approved this plan, we were, lacking in commercial, but we've had a lot over the last few years that is still to be built. And so when I first saw this, I thought, I'm open to, approving this. But, Councilman Nielsen, I think you bring up some very valid points. And yeah, we only have one shot at this. And we don't want it to be just a standard retail business. I think if we could put something in place that it looks amazing, like what we originally saw, I think we'd like that concept of with that upstairs patio. It brought something to the community that we don't have with that, just that hometown community feel. And so if we could somehow get that in this, if it's single level, I think that it could be a win.
So you would be willing to approve it with the design requirement to stand out, basically, is what you're saying.
Yeah. Long way
Because-
around it.
Right.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Wheelock.
Yeah, as I look at this and I liked the design that we had. I understand the dilemma that they've got. We've had other projects that came to us recently that had financial questions and difficulties that they were trying to address, and we made no modification for that. I still think that if you jazz these buildings up, I don't have any problem with that. I would have liked to have seen what it was, but I understand the difference and would like to see the project go forward while also understanding that you only get one shot at it. So, but between those two, I probably lean to get something started in that direction, and we could adjust as we go forward. Maybe the back two or two-story, I don't know. But I'd just as soon see it start and learn as we go and support somebody that's trying to build a future in our town.
Okay.
Mayor Chadwick.
Yes, sir.
So I've made it no secret tonight. I don't believe the Stars' heyday is over. I think our best days are yet to come. And I'm empathetic to your situation. I really am. What I'm hearing from the council tonight and really contemplating myself is what can we do to find that medium? Mayor, I think that's something that you've done a good job of leading Star in.
Yeah.
Since you've been mayor and since you've been on the council, you've always been that one. Let's find that win-win. And I believe in that as well. And I'd rather not leave that just to a design review. And this isn't a judgment on your comment, Councilman Wheelock, but when I hear let's jazz the building up, the thought that comes to me is if we just make it a facade, that's all it is. Right. And so what I'd really like for us to do here tonight is put some conditions of approval on this that make this turn into what we are willing to have built here on this site and what we are willing to do to compromise from the original design, but yet hang on to the best of those elements. And I'm curious if that's a conversation you're willing to engage in or if we want to leave it to that design review.
You're asking the council that question?
I am asking the council, yes. I don't,
I'd be interested to hear what type of conditions, like off the top of my head, I'm like, I don't know. Do you have any in mind?
Well, Councilman Wheelock brought up the patio on top and
Yeah.
we kind of discussed that a little bit. I'd open to making that a condition. If we wanted to talk about, the patios out front or
Right, some sort of.
some other
outdoor-
ideas, if there was an original design element that was attractive or the entire design element, is that a condition of approval?
If how about if I ask Victor a question? Can I do that?
You can ask Victor a question.
Victor, would you address a patio on the roof of this building? Would that be an issue for the fire department?
Long as we have the proper life safety codes. So if it's a covered patio, whether it's an A2 occupancy with sprinklers, alarms, extinguishers and stuff like that. So we'd have to review it based on occupancy. But we would just put our conditions of ensuring that all fire life safety systems were in place to make it safe for our citizens that were visiting it.
I'm gonna bring this up real quick. I can't emphasize enough that you can't just put a patio on top without creating ADA possibilities. That does not work. I know you provided examples, but those aren't brand new examples. Those are old examples of facilities. If they were going to do a substantial remodel of those buildings under the commercial code, they'd have to bring them up to ADA standards. So you just can't just go put a patio thing on top without making it ADA compliant, which is the only way to make it ADA compliant is utilizing an elevator system. You're back to the elevator system. I'm telling you, I've done this for 16 years.
I don't love having a patio up there without the second floor being there myself. It was just a question I
Right.
wanted.
I just
answered
want to
from
make
the
sure
fire
people understand
department's
that.
perspective.
That's a challenge.
I just as soon see a,
Can you build a building and put a pergola looking thing up top that it gives you the appearance of a patio? I mean, you could do all sorts of different stuff like that without actually having that patio up top, if that's what you're looking for. I know the experience would be great, but man, the economics of that, when you're talking $400 a square foot for a commercial facility at a minimum right now, that's insane. Just 3 years ago, it was about 100 and a quarter, right? I get the dilemma that they're in with this thing. We just got to find a way that we're okay with it. I get this is our one chance, but you know what? We can make it the one chance and make it look good and make it work for what they're trying to do.
Well, and
Make it
that's
economical.
the discussion that I want to have, Mayor, is, we got the one chance.
what are the elements that you're
What are
looking
the
for?
elements? What are the conditions that make this?
So you can,
compromise?
you can approve, well, here's another part you can do. You can approve the reduction and then they can go back and do full design and bring the design back to you to look at that point. It doesn't no good to go spend all the money to make a design that you're not going to approve right away without the assurances that they're going to get the reduction in square footage. But you can put that as a condition too, to have them bring that back. Instead of going to the design review committee, come to the council to review it and see what that looks like at that point. You know what I mean? I mean, there's different ways that we can look at that with them. I guess I don't know if that would suffice that way you get to look at it before it's built and make some just changes to it if it's not the sexy.
Yeah, sure. I mean,
Yeah.
that is absolutely an option. And I guess what I'm hearing is we don't really have any suggestions for them to go into this.
The style of building was different than this block with gables. From my point of view, I would like to see something different than that. What that is a design review. They have way more knowledge and talent in that than I have, but I know what I like versus a building with gables on four corners.
And you can go back and have
That's,
if you approve this, you can say, take the design that you have and provide those elements somehow into this facility and bring it back.
That's exactly what I
to
would
look at
say. Let's let them do that and come back. I would approve it as a single and love to see the elevations back in front of the council if that's what it takes, because I think this building is going to make a difference in Star.
So not these designs that are on screen.
These
Correct.
designs,
You're talking the,
go back to the
ones that we
first
already-
ones that we
we have
approved in
approved.
November 2021.
And take those elements and put it into the building.
And change it to this new element.
No. Sorry. Sorry.
That's my opinion. I agree that.
And remember,
Let them do that part and come back if that's what we want. But I do have no problem going back to a single level if it looks nice.
and just, this was for them to bring something in front of you, not their official design based on what they were saying out here. So we just got to understand that too.
I just think this hit plain versus what they had.
Right.
And I think they can come back with something different than that if they're interested in that. If we ask them to.
Yep. Chris, any comments? You're looking over there. Okay. All right.
Mr. Mayor,
Councilman Wheelock.
I'd make a motion.
Okay.
I'd make a motion that we approve this to be single level, brought back before the council with the design options, maybe with some elements that would make it similar to the building that was pre-approved with its elevations in November of the original development agreement. And that would be the only thing I would change in the development agreement.
Huh? Well, you're reducing the square footage,
Single level as presented,
but so as presented, like removing the 12,000 square feet.
removing the second floor from each side. So 6,000 square feet twice is the new building square footage, if that's what you're wanting.
So that'd be 21,300 square feet as a minimum for the entire site. Are you going to leave the minimum or are you going to take the minimum out?
I was going to take the 6,000 square feet from
Okay.
these two buildings.
Okay. So we got a motion. Do we have a second?
Mayor Chadwick,
Councilman Nielsen?
question about the motion.
Okay.
Just on, use the word elevation. I want to make sure that elevation is a term that applies to design and not, I'm looking at Sean. Does elevation encompass what we've been talking about here?
Yeah, I call it building elevation.
Building elevation, sorry.
Exterior
Not
building
excavation elevation, building elevation.
exterior building elevations.
Okay.
Make sure you say that.
And that includes materials and design and all that. Okay.
Okay. Do we have a second? Well, you don't have to throw up. You can do it.
Sorry.
You're like,
So I'm interested why you're just taking off the 12,000 versus just removing the minimum square footage. So you're
'Cause I'm giving them what they asked for.
well, no, they actually asked for them to strike the minimum square footage. So not to approve a single level, they're asking for a minimum, to strike the minimum square footage. So if they decide that they do want to sell it, and we pass this motion tonight, another person could come in and say, well, it's limited to 1 story now. Because your motion that you just made, it's limited to 1 story.
well, you could say a minimum of
A
21,
minimum,
of the 21,300 square feet.
Okay.
That's what you should say.
a minimum of 21,000 square feet
Okay.
of commercial.
Okay.
And that applies just to those front two buildings, correct?
Applies to the entirety of the complex, I believe.
Yeah, with the
All
front two
all
buildings,
for the
that's only
facility.
12,000 feet.
And do you want that design to come back to us or are you satisfied to,
No, I asked for it to come back to the council.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, we got you got that, Sean?
I need clarification. What do you mean by come back to?
So we're going to bring the design review to the city council to do the design
Okay,
review.
thank you.
Yes. So we got a motion, a second by Councilman Nielsen. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Wheelock,
Aye.
Nielsen, or Salmonson,
Aye.
Nielsen.
Aye.
Okay, that motion carries. Thank you. Nielsen seconded, if that's what you're writing down, Sean. Okay. All right. Let's move on to the next one. Item 6C, public hearing on the Lake Haven Estates annexation and zoning. Thank you, guys. It is 8:33. And we will open the public hearing and ask the council if they have any ex parte contact or communication regarding this project.
No.
Okay, hearing none.
None.
We will, Sean, are you ready? Okay, let me give Sean, he's writing down your stuff for the last one. You're taking 12,000 off. You're saying you're removing 6.6 out of 33,300 that was approved. A minimum square footage is still gonna be 21,300 on that project. Will you hand me that one?
You'll teach me my math sometime.
Okay, I'll teach you the math later. All right. All right. That's the wrong one there. Sorry, I need the other one. I need the one for Lake Haven Estates.
Bring it up to you.
Okay, all right. All right, are you ready for your
Yep.
presentation? Okay, the floor is yours, Sean.
Mr. Mayor, Council, you have before you annexation request for Lake Haven Estates, which includes a development agreement. The request from the applicant is for an R-2 zoning designation along with the development agreement. Property is located at 21831 Coa Lane. Property is 64.7 acres in size. The application includes a future conceptual plan for residential. That would have to come back as a preliminary plat in the future. Staff has reviewed the application for requirements for submittal, legal noticing, posting of the site, all in compliance with the UDC. And application has been reviewed in compliance with the comprehensive plan. You do have a late exhibit. I emailed you a late exhibit from the Star Fire District and also from Highway District 4. There are no outstanding items, and staff is recommending approval of the application with the attached conditions of approval and any other conditions that you find appropriate. Again, the property is located on the west side, or excuse me, the east side of Bent Lane, south of State Highway 44. Runs adjacent to the Star River Ranch subdivision and is adjacent to the Boise River to the south. This is the conceptual plan that the applicant has provided. And that's all staff has.
Okay. Thank you, staff. Do we have the applicant? You sure you want to come up? Just state your name and address, please, for the record.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of council. My name is Stephanie Hopkins. I'm with KM Engineering. Our address is 5725 North Discovery Way in Boise. Here representing the property owners and developer for Lake Haven Estates. Tonight, we're requesting annexation with a development agreement. Sean mentioned the property is about 65 acres in total, south of Highway 44, east of Bent Lane, currently takes access via Castanola and Coa Lane, which is accessed via Bent. We are adjacent to several properties that have been annexed and zoned into the city. R2 directly to the west in the Star River Ranch subdivision, and R5 to the north of that for the Star River Ranch North, which is going to be called Legato coming forward, as well as some mixed use and commercial designations in the area. We're requesting tonight R2 for We were initially requesting R2 for the whole project. We have been discussing with staff and have discussed the option of potentially, there's an 18-acre piece that is on the west side here. I'm going to spotlight it. That staff has thought maybe would be more appropriate for the rural residential district. And our client, the developer, is amenable to that, if that's something that you think is appropriate. Our application does request R2 for the entire property. So that's outlined in red here. This designation and our overall concept plan, which I'll show you in just a second, is consistent with adjacent development. We're consistent with the comp plan as well. The estate urban residential area allows for up to 3 units per acre, and we're quite below that. So we feel that will be compatible with existing development. This is the conceptual development plan, which we have been working on since we initially submitted the application. So as Sean mentioned, we'll be required, if this is approved tonight, we'll be required to submit a preliminary plat to you all for review. Right now, we're showing 37 total lots. So that includes 30 single-family buildable lots. There's one existing home that we're planning to retain in the middle here. The home will be there, and we've actually situated what will be a water feature pond around that home to create some really nice waterfront property for them as well as future homeowners. And then there's the 18-acre piece that we haven't included yet in this conceptual layout to the west that will also include one single-family home. So that'll be, the developer is actually planning to develop his family's home there. So that'll be their property, but included within the preliminary plat. We are including 6 common lots. We're kind of still working through the amenities. We've talked about doing kind of a regional city pathway on the north side, adjacent to there's a canal or a creek that's on the north, next to an existing drive aisle. It provides access to a property to the east that we would love to put a pathway in, as well as some micro paths to connect homes throughout the development. We're also looking at potentially, pickleball courts or tennis courts or something along those lines. Kind of working through those details, and we'll have those obviously in line before we submit any preliminary plat application to you all. Lot sizes range from about 13,000 square feet to 380,000 square feet, and that's just within this area you're seeing here. So the developer's goal was really to provide a nice transition, some smaller kind of 3rd-acre lots up in the north, kind of transitioning to half-acre and above. There are bigger lots on the south adjacent to the floodplain. On the south here that all range from about 1.5 acres to 8+ acres, and then the 18-acre piece on the west. Average lot size for the main concept plan that you're looking at is about 45,000 square feet. So our density of just this 47 acres is about 0.62 dwelling units per acre. And if you include the 18-acre piece, it's about 0.46 dwelling units per acre. So it's pretty low density for this area. And that the intention really is to make a nice community. With our preliminary plat application, we will be requesting private streets internally. So we would, include like a gated entrance as well as kind of just to make it more of an exclusive feel for folks. And that is it. So as I mentioned, or I don't know if I mentioned this with the developers here this evening, if you have any questions for him on specifics for his plan moving forward, and the property owner for the existing home is here as well. So we appreciate staff's help and coordination on this project. We're in agreement with the staff report and conditions, and are looking forward to continuing this project with STAR. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. You guys have any questions of the applicant at this time? Councilman Wheelock?
Yeah, if I like the overall plan. I think it's good. I love the idea of leaving that 18 acres in rural residential. If they're interested or willing to do that, that would be great. And that would be what it would take for me to be happy with what I've seen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Commissioner, or Councilman Wheelock.
Okay,
Mayor Chadwick.
Councilwoman?
So does the southern border, does it touch the river anywhere? Or is there another?
Mr. Mayor, Councilwoman Salmonson, it doesn't touch the river. It's actually, so on the far west side, it's about 400 feet from the river, but it is within the flood zone and floodplain. So we actually have depicted a couple of ponds they're on the south side here, So the gravel extraction is actually proposed to be included within the development agreement for this property. That'll be a pond that's going to be located there within the floodplain. So
That pond's not existing currently?
it is not existing.
So in your design, then you have it with the landowner to the south is going to join you in making that pond then? Is that what's happening?
Mr. Mayor, so to the south is, I think it's Department of land. So it's actually not,
Okay, so this piece,
it's not under private ownership.
this piece is Department of Lands land right here?
I believe so. Maybe the developer.
So we'll have Spencer, you want to come up
Yeah,
and
thank
talk
you.
about that real quick? Just want to make certain that we understand.
Yes. Thank you for having us, Mayor and Council.
Just state your
Council-
name and address.
Spencer Kofit, 8454 Brookhaven Place, Middleton, Idaho. So that lot is a 17-acre lot that includes Mike Iapati's old house that's now owned by Colin Higginbottom. So there is no river. What you see here, that there is not any attachment to the river because that 17-acre lot that Colin Higginbottom owns is between the Platte and the river.
So just on this one, you have to construct that pond though, right?
That lake is there.
Oh, that is there. Okay.
There's an extension of that lake to the west. So we are going to expand that lake.
On your property.
Yeah.
I just wondered how that was
Actually,
going to work.
both. We actually are expanding the lake around Keoki's old house, which is Nathan Ogden's house. We're expanding out in the green area. We're also expanding the lake that used to be by Iapati's, and we're actually doing one on the 18 acres.
Okay, gotcha. All right, thank you. Any other questions of the applicant at this time?
Mayor Chadwick.
Councilman Nielsen?
So the request for private streets, just creating a more exclusive feel. I mean, when you gate that off and make it private, you don't get police protection and coverage. Things
Yeah.
like that. Tell me what you're thinking there and how that serves your potential residents.
Yeah, thank you. When we were meeting with staff, that was a potential. We'd like to do a gated community. It's closed at nights, more privacy, more. There's been some discussion in other states where public roads can receive people. Private roads, you could actually keep it more safe. And we want to work with the police force. We've talked with the fire department to give them codes. And we'd like to have an agreement in the HOA that allows the police force to come in as you do on public roads. It's not a deal breaker. We just would like to do that. We think it's a good way forward and to create a more exclusive feel. And we're happy taking care of our own roads.
Okay. Any further questions on that one?
No, that's it for now.
Okay. Any further questions of the applicant at this time before we go to the,
Would the private roads be built to the Canyon County 4 standards?
Yes.
Same width and all that?
City of Star standards are 36-foot wide. right?
Yes, they would be same standards that City of Star would require.
And then, any further questions of the applicant? All right. Let me just ask you, do you want to speak any further? Because you signed up yes.
Yeah, I guess I want to say, we're going to live down here. We'd like to build our home. We actually have it designed and hopefully ready to go here soon on the 18 acres. We really want to create a beautiful neighborhood, connect to the city pathways. We want to create green spaces, lower density, good neighborhood. We'd like to make it disability friendly and accessible. We love our trees. We're going to transplant. We're going to try to keep as many of those trees down there as we can, and even transplant ones that will be in the way of roads and try to spade those and move them. And then we are going to work on getting emergency access for the fire department down to the river.
Oh, to the river somehow?
Yeah, so my neighbor, the Bopes, they actually have access to the river. And we've talked with it. They don't want to give a formal easement, but they'd be willing to give the fire department emergency access down where they could load the fire department could load their boat on that part, right on the edge of our property, but it would be connected off the cul-de-sac. If you can, right there, there's an access that kind of our emergency access goes off to the east there, and it would connect to their gravel road that connects to the river. So there would be some emergency access to the river there.
Okay. Awesome. Okay, anything else there, Mr. Spencer? Nope. All right. Thank you, sir. Mr. Nathan? Is he here? Oh, okay. Absolutely. And
I can do it.
just state your name and address, sir, please, for the record.
Second here. Nathan Ogden, 21831 Coa Lane. Here in Star. It's actually my address on the property, on the whole plan there. So I'm the awkward looking lot right in the middle. So I'm on the original homestead of this, of all this acreage. And I bought the property there actually from Spencer a little over a year and a half ago. And I'm from Boise, but we just moved out. I like country. And anyway, to make it pretty simple, I'm working with Spencer on helping make this and then also work with him on other projects to make them as accessible as possible. So that when we have tennis courts and pickleball, basketball, when we have paths that are going everywhere, when we have anything throughout this neighborhood, like if I can't, I'm a quadriplegic, and if I can't push on it, then we're not going to have it. And so I actually work with Susan Buxton, who is the director over the whole state of Idaho, working on, they're going to be redoing a lot of Eagle Island and other projects throughout the state. And so I work with her closely on how to make a lot of those things well. And I don't go out in the cold too much. So I love Star. I used to drive through here all the time on my way from Boise out to Parma when I was a young kid. And I think it's amazing that I'm even here now. Not that I've never liked Star, but it was nothing. There was, I mean, you didn't have to hardly slow down when I was come back. And I love this town. I've only been here a year and a half, and we love it, and my family loves it, and we plan on being here for a long time. And so as I listen and I see what's going on within the city of Star. I see it in Middleton, and I listen to some of the things you guys are discussing. I guess my counsel, and maybe I'm out of step in saying this, but my counsel would be anything you guys do now is to really set a good standard for what it means for those with different abilities for the future. I know it's not always easy. I don't expect to get everywhere, but we can always plan. We can always push for it. And I think that's what I have. I'm excited for this neighborhood. I don't like houses. I don't like neighbors. But I think the way that this is designed and the way that we've been allowed to be a part of the whole process of this as our family, that it's going to be a place that I'm going to be proud of, and I'm going to be happy to be living there.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
May I pick your brain some one of these times about, I'm kind of going off topic a little bit just because it's an opportunity, but we've been very, we've been working really hard to make things ADA accessible on everything that we're working on here in Star. But I would love for you to give Ryan your phone number so I can sit and talk to you and show you what we're doing to get your opinion on it. So we can do things the right way, make sure that it's good, accessible for
Go
everybody.
see the new pond and the new park. I didn't know we had one
Yep.
until recently. I turned down that way. I didn't even know it was there.
Yep.
And so I plan this summer to go out and
You can use it. We
enjoy
got
some
it
of
set
that.
up that way.
It's a little cold still, but
Chilly.
Doing it now. No.
snowshoes were required.
So, yeah.
I'd love you to give Ryan your phone number so I can reach out to you and just have you, because I appreciate your testimony and I mean, that's one of the big things we've been working on here as a community. So,
Sure. More than happy to help.
Okay.
Anything else?
Any questions?
I do have a question.
Yeah.
Thank you. So regarding like the access to the river, as a resident right there, you may not go like have access to get to the river right now, but if it was available, or would you be supportive of having some sort of connection, into this development to the river?
Like for the neighborhood or for the general public?
Both. Let's hear your answer to both.
I grew up in the foothills, so we were on acreage. And so I understand privacy, and that's me. That's my background of it. And so as far as the neighborhood goes, you can see on the bottom part of the picture, the south side of that they're larger lots. I also understand that somebody's paying big bucks for those lots, and that I understand that if someone's willing to do that and able to do that, that they should have certain privacy, and not have people walking back behind their house unless that is a necessity. I don't see if there's enough because of the ponds that are existing and widening and bigger throughout the whole neighborhood and the walking paths. There's plenty of water space that I personally feel comfortable. I mean, I'm almost anywhere there. You can get to a pond, and you'll have access to see it, to be right next to it. Many of the homes are looking right over the back, and to me, that's a pretty neat thing in itself. So access to the river for me isn't as important as that. When it comes to the general public, I think it comes back, and maybe it sounds bad, but it comes back to privacy for me. It's a matter of, is it cool? Yeah, for anyone to be able to come in at any point. But it seems like we have quite a few places that you can do that. So we have a lot of sportsman access around here. We have a lot of, you got the park, you've got just right on Star Bridge, you got all these things that are used quite often. I don't know all the details about all these places. You guys would know that better than me. But it seems like we have a lot of access to those places. And so if you are trying to create a certain feel for anybody to be able to drive down through the neighborhood to the river, then the more people you get anywhere, the more it starts to ruin it would start to cause more erosion, start to cause more problems in that part of the river that right now is never touched. And so to me, it's pretty neat. I can drive back there right now since it's not developed. And, that nothing gets back there. Like, it's neat. You got deer walking everywhere and turkeys. And to me, that's something to be protected. And it seems like so much of our space nowadays is being encroached upon and built on, that if we can protect as much as we can, that's also an important thing. That's my feelings.
Thank you.
Okay, any further questions? All right, appreciate it, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
So I'm going to ask the Quinzers, you signed up, but you said no. Did you want to say anything on this before I move on? Yeah, either one of you? No? Okay, all right. Very good. How about the rest of your family? No? Okay. You can get speech credits for school. No, I'm kidding on that. All right, with that, did the applicant want to come back up and close this out?
I'll just say one last thing based on your question. We do want to connect all the paths and the walking ways and the biking ways to the access on the other side of Star River Ranch. So our subdivision will have connectivity in the pathways and the walkways to that public access point.
Yeah.
And so with that, would people be able to walk into your neighborhood, or is it for private use only?
So we want on the north side along that creek, they could walk there. So we want to create, and I believe, I know it was on your agenda that you guys were going to review the connectivity pathways.
Oh, not tonight.
Not tonight. Okay. Maybe that's another night, but I would love to connect to those. So on the north side of our property, we have a big creek, and we would like to connect all the city pathways.
It'd be this one right here that had the public access for walking, right?
Yes, exactly. So that one, we would like to connect all the city pathways and get down to the river, and then have some also private ones inside the community to walk around the lakes and things.
All right. Another question then, Mayor Chadwick.
Councilwoman?
So kind of on, in the same line as our last public hearing, we only have one shot for the river access. And it, we don't have, it may not be built, in the next 10, 20 years, but say even, 40 years down the road, we might have a green belt that goes all the way from Lucky Peak all the way out to, keep heading west as far as you can go. So I guess, I'm concerned. I want to make sure that if we need public or like a easement along the river down there, that we talk about that here rather than, we approve it, it's private, and then we never have a chance at that again. So I would love your input on that.
I'll give you input on that too. here in a minute.
Okay.
Well, yeah. So, yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Councilwoman Salmonson. So Spencer and I were looking at this kind of just, looking at our layout and trying to figure out what's in the area. And it looked like there was more opportunity along the creek going east, just because there is so much land that's not directly adjacent to the river that hasn't either been, it's either undeveloped or has the opportunity to provide access there. And so that was really one of the main reasons that we were wanting to focus on that area in particular. Just in addition to what Spencer had mentioned, there is public access in Star River Ranch, and we're planning to connect to that as well.
So based on what we've reviewed, this is the access, that north side, and the pathway along the creek is the access point to all the public access that currently exist.
But I think I'm talking more about like a true like green belt that you
Let me-
see.
Can I just add to that? I'm going to add to that.
Okay.
Sean, can you make that bigger, please? Anyway, is there any way? And go down to the river? Or can you scroll it up a little bit? Or does it not do that? Oh, are you able to get rid of, okay, there we go. Oh, okay, right there is good. So right here, so when we're talking about Star River Ranch, the only public access we have at Star River Ranch is through this public access down to about here. We have zero access or zero ability to get any access on the north side of the river here anymore. On Spencer, this is his private property right here. And then you got this is not even part of the application, which is down by the river, right? We have opportunity, and this is part of what we're pushing on south of the river, on creating that greenbelt space on the south side that's completely open and not developed. It's all fields and stuff that's over here. So we'll have that opportunity with our South River plan to continue that greenbelt system going this way. And hopefully at some point, maybe bring over a bridge. This is things we've been talking about, working on, bringing a bridge across and connecting to the Star River Ranch thing and continue to the east or to the west on both sides. But there are certain points in the river that we will never have that access right along the river ever. So creating that space that's coming up along this canalway, which will eventually connect right here with this and in the backside of Pinewood Lakes, that'll take us all the way to the Star Road Bridge. And then you can bring it down and walk this way currently. But long-term future, we have, whenever a development comes through on the south side, that's where we need to, because it's open. There's no houses there. There's nothing there. And that's where you create that pathway for the Greenbelt system, because they don't have it on both sides of the river.
Currently, that
Almost
takes
that.
a step away from the river down in Boise in Garden City. Does the same kind
Yeah,
of
it does
thing,
a
steps
step.
away for
Yeah,
a mile period or something.
right.
So
we
this
will
is the
get that
same
access.
as that.
But I just don't foresee it happening here because you can't really do it dead ends. We can't get that access on that Star River Ranch property right here. Because this is all right here, this whole pond belongs to these big houses that are right there. And that's it. And they're not granting any more access than which is right to here for the public the sportsman's access right there.
Thank you. And Ryan Morgan mentioned in a staff meeting, we're actually 400 feet away from the main channel of the river
Oh,
on
yeah.
my lot. Because it kind of meanders south.
Oh, yeah, right
ways
here.
away from
Yeah.
my lot.
So this is Department of Lands land right here, right?
Yeah.
This is what we were talking
The
about.
main channel is that 400 feet away from the.
And there are certain lands that are in here, just so everybody's aware, that are not claimed by anybody. They're this new dirt that the river has created as it's dug and cut, that things that we're actually looking at on how to acquire that to help with our Greenbelt system.
All right.
Thank you for helping me understand what your plans are. That's cool.
I mean, we've been working on this for a while, and it's going to be stuff that's going to be brought up in that master plan that we're doing as well, so.
Thank you.
Any other questions of Mr. Spencer? Anybody?
Thank you.
Or Stephanie? Okay, hearing none, it's 9:03. And we'll close the public hearing and go to council deliberations.
Mayor Chadwick.
Councilwoman?
So there was discussion about that southwest parcel that would be rural residential. I just want to make sure, like, the applicant, maybe I missed it, they were aware of that.
I believe, Sean, so rural residential on that piece, they were good with, right?
They offered it up.
They offered it up, yeah. So if a motion is made, we need to make a motion that says that.
I have
piece is
some,
rural
I have some
residential.
conditions that we'll put in the development agreement. You guys
Okay.
are ready?
All right. Did that answer your question? Sorry.
That does answer my question.
Okay.
I like it, and it fits, it fits our comprehensive plan. This is just annexation, and what was the other item of it? Well, and the zoning.
In a development agreement.
In a development agreement. So, there was a concept plan. I like the concept. But, we'll wait to see what they come back with in their actual preliminary plat. So all in all, though, I'm supportive of it. I think the river access, that has been addressed, so I'm not concerned about that. And I like the idea of the pathway, along the canal. We connectivity. So I'm in support of it.
Okay. Any further comments? Councilman Nielsen?
Thank you. So I'm curious, and maybe Chief Hessing, maybe you can talk to this a little bit, but the applicant represented that there's possibility within the HOA covenants to allow for patrol to enter the property and have gate access to the gate, similar to the fire department. Do you want to just comment on that?
Yeah, so we have a couple of different subdivisions in Star that do have private roads. This one I'm not overly concerned about because it is a cul-de-sac, because it doesn't feed into other roads. The issue doesn't really come of us accessing these private roads, because a lot of times they'll give us gate codes and allow that access. And obviously, if there's any misdemeanor or felony crimes being committed, we're going to go in there anyways and deal with that. The biggest issue for law enforcement on private roads, we can't enforce any infractions whatsoever. So if this is gated, so they probably won't have the problem. But if you have, people parking on the street and they're calling Star Police Department to come and move them, we cannot move them. We can't give them tickets. We can't enforce speed limits in there. So it's more of those type of issues that come in. And again, this one with the cul-de-sacs, I'm not overly concerned about it, but it's the infraction portion of it that we can't service that. So when people call Star Police, they're mad at us for not going in there and policing that area, there's definitely some restrictions that we have because of the private roads.
That answer your question, sir?
Yeah, it does. I can imagine Spencer having a racetrack down that one corridor.
I was going to say, Spencer's going to have to control the kids from racing up that cul-de-sac.
Hey, look at the smile on his kid's face. I mean, that's awesome. All right, thank you. That was my question, Mayor.
Okay, any further questions or comments, motion,
Um,
Councilwoman?
Chadwick?
Yep.
So regarding the private street comment, so we're not approved. They haven't made the request in the development agreement
John?
for private streets, have they? Or is that part of the development agreement?
They do not have a private street application, but you can put a condition on here because their concept plan and their testimony suggests that they're going to have private streets. So you could put a condition on the development agreement that they cannot have private streets or that they can have private streets. You'll review the actual preliminary plat at a later date with the details on everything.
So I'm not a huge fan of the private streets. I get it for the condition for gated community, but personally, I'd like to see it without any condition that a private street is approved at this phase, so that if we
So why
We
are
can
you not a
look at-
fan? So if the police and the fire both have said that they don't have an issue with it, what's your concern with the private street?
Yeah, I think that the maintenance plan, I worry for the future homeowners for these private street developments, that at whatever point that they are required to make the maintenance on them, it's going to cost them a lot of money to maintain them. And I don't know if homeowners really are aware of what that expense is when they are buying the lot. So that's my biggest concern with the
So
private
on
street.
a subdivision of this magnitude with the high dollar homes, we're concerned about that with them.
You're right.
I'm just curious. I mean, this is
Right.
not your normal subdivision.
I agree.
Yeah.
So I guess I would say just to leave it open and not include it now, but that's just me. I mean, I could be, I could
And then
be
have them file. their
swayed
private-
to agree it or to include it here if needed, but I don't know.
Well, I mean, if it's not part of the application and it's coming
Right.
back, then sounds like
You can
that,
just have
that
it
would be
come
part
back.
of it, come back. But
Right.
and we've also done things in the past that, required an applicant to put it in the HOA code. So that at least it's, or the CCNRs, I mean, so that at least that's they're visible to the homeowners as they're, buying their home.
Yeah.
But
Okay. Any more comments? You gonna have a motion somewhere?
Mayor Chadwick,
Councilman Nielsen?
yeah, I'm supportive of this application. And I appreciate you guys bringing forward something of this quality and that contemplates so many things. And Mr. Ogden, for your testimony on ADA, I know this is something that Councilwoman Salmonson in particular has been really cognizant of in our community. And I feel like we're doing a good job and we can always do better. So looking forward to what you can do to, help improve our community as well. And really appreciate that Spencer, Mr. Kofa, that you've partnered with him to do that in your community. That's awesome. So with that, I'll make a motion that we approve this application, file AZ 24-01 and DA 24-01.
Do you want to make in your motion that they bring the private streets back with a preliminary plat
Well,
or the
I
request?
would like to add a couple of conditions to your motion if you,
I'm open to additional
Choose.
motions. I thought my understanding was that we didn't have to do that with the private streets, but I'll move that they bring a private street application back a later date.
okay. So so with that, then the only two additional conditions I'd like to put on the development agreement would be that gravel extraction will be part of the development of this property and that the western parcel be zoned RR. The rest of the property be R2.
That's right. Yep. So I will include in my motion that the western parcel, do you want a parcel number on that?
Just as the parcel as testified to.
Parcel as testified to be zoned rural residential. And then
With the gravel
And then gravel extraction will be part of this development.
so I'm moving to approve or to grant a gravel extraction permit, or is that a permit that comes later?
It'll be part of the development agreement.
Okay.
The extraction of gravel because it'll be part of the future subdivision, but they would like to, they've requested to get.
I will include in the motion that gravel extraction is part of the development agreement. Is that sufficient?
Is that sufficient? Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion, a second by Councilman Wheelock. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Wheelock,
Aye.
Salmonson, Nielsen.
Aye.
All right, that motion carries. Welcome to Star. Thank you. Okay, we're going to move on to item 6D, the public hearing for the Milepost Common Subdivision. It's your turn finally. We are going to ask council, I am going to ask council, do you have any ex parte contact or communication regarding this project?
None.
Hearing none, it is 9:12 and we are going to open the public hearing. So Sean, do you have a presentation?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a second here. Mr. Mayor and Council, you have before you the Milepost Commons subdivision preliminary plat. development agreement modification. Property is currently, sorry, I've got an error here on my exhibit here. Property is currently zoned R4, is located at 2400 North Pollard Lane. The property is 19.93 acres in size. The applicants are proposing 72 residential lots with a proposed 3.6 dwelling units per acre density. This is an extension of the Milestone Ranch subdivision. So the development agreement modification would modify that development agreement that was part of Milestone Ranch to incorporate this development as part of that HOA and CCNRs.
No other changes though for the DA? Besides just incorporating?
That's probably a question for the applicant.
Okay, all right.
We haven't really discussed that, but they can bring that up. The application has been reviewed for compliance with the zoning ordinance with regards to legal noticing posting of the site. Application is in compliance with the comprehensive plan. I emailed you a late exhibit from the Starfire District. Outstanding issues or council discussion. The applicant is asking for consistent side yard setbacks with what was approved with Milestone Ranch subdivision being 5-foot side yard setbacks. Staff is recommending approval of this with conditions of approval.
Okay. Any questions of Sean at this time? Okay. The applicant, come up and state your name and address, please, for the record. And Ryan's not here to push. Are you going to do 20 minutes on that?
I'm going to try not to.
You go ahead and state your name and address. That's fine.
Thank you, Sean, by the way. Kyle Pruitt. I am the land entitlement manager for the Idaho division of Toll Brothers, 3103 West Sherrill Drive, Meridian.
Okay. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, absolutely. So before you today, for your consideration, we have Milepost Commons subdivision. Toll Brothers, although we are a national home builder and developer, we are well established locally with over 170 local employees. And as you can see, once our slide, there we go. Thank you, Sean. As I was saying, so we're well established locally. We over the last 12 months, we have accounted for approximately 25% of the new home sales within the city of Star. And we have also developed and built homes in subdivisions such as Heirloom Ridge, Colina Vista, Cresta del Sol, and Milestone Ranch. The site here, as you can see, is immediately adjacent to Milestone Ranch. And we are also near other Toll Brothers developments such as Colina Vista in the northwest corner, Heirloom Ridge to the south. And we have Cresta del Sol also to the north as well. Again, this is immediately adjacent to Milestone Ranch subdivision and is approximately 20 acres. Oops, sorry about that. Again, before you tonight, we have a preliminary plat application and a development agreement modification application. Although this is coming before you as a preliminary plat separate to Milestone Ranch, for all intents and purposes, this is an extension acting as phases 7, 8, and 9. In addition to the 6 phases of Milestone Ranch subdivision. The development agreement modification would annex the Milepost Commons subdivision into the CCNRs and the HOA that is currently active and existing for Milestone Ranch subdivision. Other than annexing the approximate 20 acres and the additional lots to the Milestone Ranch development agreement, we are not asking for any other modifications at this time. The site that has Milepost Commons is already annexed into the city with an R4 zoning designation. Neighboring zoning includes R2, R3, and R5, some with different development agreements placed upon them, including Milestone Ranch. As I previously said, although this has come before you as as a preliminary plat application. This is for all intents and purposes, phases 7, 8, and 9 of Milestone Ranch subdivision. The property size details that is in the bottom right corner of this slide contains both the calculations for Milepost Commons and Milestone Ranch. In the if you include Milepost Commons with Milestone Ranch, the total property size comes out to approximately 90 acres with approximately 350 units, although 72 of those are only within Milepost Commons. The density for Milepost Commons is 3.6 units per acre, which brings down the overall density for Milestone Ranch to approximately 3.9. The average lot size for Milepost Commons is slightly higher than Milestone Ranch at approximately 6,000 square feet, and we have 11 common lots. So again, we are planning on breaking ground and grading the site and installing utilities in 2025. And with build out for the homes on the site in approximately spring of 2027, beginning for phases 7, we are proposing to include 2 of our collections, a 45 foot width plan, or the lot sizes will be 45 feet in width, and a 55 width plan, the Briar and Orchard collection, which are currently being sold in Milestone Ranch. These are single story only. They are detached. There is some attached product in Milestone Ranch, but this for Milepost Commons, we are only proposing the detached product line. And we are also going to include a additional amenity within Milepost Commons as an extension of Milestone Ranch, where there is a significant 10,000 square foot clubhouse which has an indoor pool, an outdoor pool, pickleball courts. I believe there's 4. We are also hoping to include within Milepost Commons. This is a 1 acre kind of additional amenity, which residents of Milestone Ranch and Milepost Common, they will each have access to the amenities within each. And so we are proposing, again, in that same 1 acre central amenity, we are proposing bocce ball courts currently, and we also have an walking paths with a connection to Milestone Ranch, kind of in that eastern side of the subdivision there. We are also proposing a walking path to the northwest, which will kind of run along the northwestern portion of the property that is above the property owned by the West Ada School District. I've included kind of as our, we'd like to talk up our central amenity at Milestone Ranch. The clubhouse is due to be completed in August, but these are some of the example elevations that we have, and we think it's going to be an exceptional facility and kind of something that Star really hasn't seen before, we believe, and I think we are doing that. Again, it should be completed this August. Again, as I previously mentioned, we will be offering 2 of our collections within Milepost Commons, the Briar and the Orchard collection. And these are, again, they're single story only, and they will be detached rather than the attached that is sometimes offered within Milestone Ranch. The majority of the lots in Milepost Commons will be the 45 width plan. I believe approximately 20 of the 72 lots will be offered for the 55 width plan. For the development agreement modification, again, this is an active development agreement that was recorded with Milestone Ranch subdivision in 2022. We have an agreement with the landowner of Milestone Ranch. We are the developer of Milestone Ranch, but we have agreement with them to allow us to be annexed into that development agreement to bring the acreage from approximately 70 acres to 90 acres, and to bring what was approved for 284 residential lots. I believe we're actually only developing 282. So the inclusion of the 72 lots from Milepost Commons will lead the additional to 354 residential lots. Other than that, we're not asking for any other deviations at this time. Again, we are hoping with this annexation to receive the single family detached setbacks for both the side yard, which would be the 5 feet, and also the rear yard setback that is also delineated within the development agreement, which is 10 feet. So that's what we would like that to be applied to Milepost Commons as well. And that's all I have for you. Thank you for your time.
Okay, any questions of the applicant?
Mr. Mayor?
Councilman Wheelock?
Yeah, several times you said you were looking for no changes, but our comprehensive plan is asking for 7.5 foot side setbacks. And that's a change from what we're currently trying to have as a look 4-star.
Mhm.
What would this Milepost Commons look like if it was to have to go to our current standards?
If it went to the 7.5 foot side yard setback standards, we essentially would, I guess, put into the current design of the layout that we have shown, it would put that into the viability would not quite be the same. We'd have to lose some lots throughout this subdivision. Again, we would like this to be consistent essentially as a part of Milestone Ranch. We would like the consistency between the two projects. We see this internally as one. We have developed Milestone Ranch and we will develop and build the homes for Milepost Commons. And so we would like the consistency of the 5 foot that is already existing adjacent to the site and applied to this site as well.
And they're all single story, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Any follow questions or anything?
Nope, I don't know that we are going to agree, so I'm
Okay.
going to let it go.
Okay. Any other questions of the applicant at this time?
Mayor Chadwick.
Councilwoman?
So regarding the amenities, so this is a separate subdivision. But so you talked about the bocce ball and the pathways, and I believe that you're required to have 3. So what are the 3? I see the 2.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. So again, as an extension of Milestone, we would like to include essentially we would like to say the 1 acre kind of open spaces that we're providing would count as a third. But again, with the inclusion of Milestone Ranch, we don't see this as a standalone. We see this as one development. And especially on the marketing side, like outside of Toll Brothers and outside of the city, this will be Milestone Ranch set. Yes, sir. No, absolutely.
Adam Capel, 3103 West Sherrill Drive, Meridian, Idaho. What's not shown here very well is there's actually a shade pavilion at those bocce courts. So in addition to the trail network, the bocce courts, the extensive amenities of the Milestone Ranch community, there's also a shade pavilion with seating adjacent to those bocce courts. So it should stand alone.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's see. Another question. Big Gulch Ditch, is that the one on the north side? Where is that?
It's so Big Gulch Ditch, it runs along, so it runs north-south right here, which is along Pollard. So we only have just the 2 very small, I guess, we touch it just that barely little bit on the northwest and the southwest.
Right. And so I believe that you're required to put in the sidewalk on Pollard for sections. Is that
Just not.
a little bit?
Just where these roads are.
Or was it? Maybe not. Okay. Well, there was something about in the ACHD report about a pedestrian, like a bridge over the Big Gulch ditch. So do you have any issue with that?
Well, they'll have to put in order to get this right here, they do have to put a bridge over that where the big Gulch ditch is
So
that.
that's a driving bridge.
Correct.
Yes.
That's the driving bridge,
Yes.
which will have the
Yes.
pedestrian access on it as well with it.
Okay.
Yep.
And what about the one to the north? Is it just going to dead end at the ditch and then people can't get across? Or how would they connect in with the sidewalk?
Let's see if I have a little bit better view. I apologize. But currently, for the northwest portion, to my knowledge, we are just having that. We are not proposing a road entrance on the northwest, so that currently we have that 12, this is a pathway, which is essentially serving as a 12-foot access road for Star Sewer and Water District to access. We have a 12-inch water line that runs to the east-west here, but currently that path would dead end right at Pollard from the designs that.
But in order to have that road, you do have a bridge over the Gulch, right? No, I get that right up here. But if this is your sewer and water connection, are they accessing it from Paul?
So-
Or are they taking it from inside?
To my understanding, it would be accessed from the inside at this location here.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
I'm just gonna, I think I would like to see that. I mean, you can culvert that or something with them and connect that to the future sidewalk that school district is gonna have to run along that anyway. So I mean, we would prefer to have that go all the way out somehow. You know what I mean?
Yes,
On there,
absolutely.
especially when they, you know, across the street, when they start doing the work down here, there'll be another sidewalk over here. So I mean, we need that connectivity somehow right there.
And so is this limited to 55 and older?
Yes,
as
this is
well?
age qualified. Yes, and it's written into the CCNRs that one occupant needs to be at least 55 and older, no one under the age of 19.
All right, that's all the questions I had. Thank you.
Okay, any further questions of the applicant? None? Nielsen, Councilman? Okay, thank you, sir. Do we have anybody sign up? Nope. Okay. Anything you want to close with? We'd have nobody sign up, so Adam, if you want to close or.
Again, Adam Capel, 3103 West Sherrill Drive. Just want to say how thrilled we are with this development. It's really one of a kind, unique. We're thrilled to be in the city of Star, and we look forward to this expansion as well. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Any further questions of staff? Okay. It's 9:29, and I'm going to close the public hearing and go to council deliberation.
Mayor Chadwick.
Councilman Nielsen.
So I appreciate Councilman Wheelock's question around side yard setbacks. I'm not inclined to move off of our standard. We put a lot of thought and effort into that. And I don't believe that it detracts from consistency sufficient enough to move away from that. Other than that, I feel like the proposal is really straightforward. I find that it's consistent with our comprehensive plan, our zoning ordinances, and you know, as Toll Brothers is represented, they do build a quality product and have been a good developer here in Star, and I'm supportive of moving forward with this. So I'm going to go ahead and make a motion that we approve, and ask staff if there are any conditions that that need to be included in my motion here as I.
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Nielsen, your motion sounds like it's going to be to retain the 7.5 foot side yard setbacks. Are you okay? Is council okay with the other reduced setbacks that the applicant has asked for?
Rear setback.
Yes.
I'm okay with that.
As that is something that is allowed through the code for you to approve without a waiver.
Yeah, so my motion will be that we approve denying the request to maintain the 5 foot side yard setbacks, requiring 7.5 foot side yard setbacks, allowing for the 10 foot rear setback.
Then the connection for that pathway to the road over the canal, did you want that or no?
Absolutely.
Okay. Anything else, Sean? No? Okay. We have a motion. We have a second.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Wheelock.
Aye.
Talmanson. Nielsen.
Aye.
Yeah, that motion carries. Thank you. On to item 7C, Sean, you want to talk about this, the findings of fact, conclusion of law? Hang on a sec here. Thank you, Adam. 7C, findings of fact, conclusion of law on Lake Haven Estates. You want to talk to that?
Mr. Mayor and Council, I have before you this evening the findings of fact for conclusions of law for the Lake Haven Estates annexation and development agreement that you approved earlier in the meeting, which would include me adding those specific conditions that are going to be in the development agreement into those findings of fact.
Okay. Do you have any questions of staff? Hearing none, I'm here to entertain a motion.
Mayor Chadwick.
Councilman
I
Nielsen.
do have a question.
Okay.
Sean, I got your email earlier, talking about including the findings of fact and conclusions of law. I've not been able to see that. I don't find it as a linkable object in the packet. And so I don't know what I'm voting on other than that you're going to add our conditions to it.
I believe did I not email you the,
That's what he just said. He had a chance to look at it.
okay, I did.
Well, no, you email, what you included was in the email attachment was the packet. I didn't see findings of fact and conclusions of law in that packet. And I don't see it as a linkable item in the
Okay.
council packet here
Right.
tonight.
So,
Can you,
I don't have a copy.
can we just print it real quick and
Yeah, if you want to.
Yeah, if you want to print it and give us
we'll just
10
take a
minutes to read
recess
it,
for
then
5 minutes?
we can do that.
Yeah, I apologize for that. I thought,
The findings of fact for Lake Haven Estates. So we're going to take, it's 7:33. We're going to, I'm sorry, yeah, 9:33. We're going to take a 5-minute recess while he prints that. Oh, get out of my, we're good now. It's 9:43. We're going to bring this city council meeting back to order. We, in front of you, Sean, go ahead and talk about the findings of fact, conclusion of law.
thank you, Mr. Mayor. Staff has provided the council with a copy of the findings of fact, conclusions of law for the Lake Haven Estates annexation. Staff will include in the findings upon your approval, the oral testimony, the folks that testified in favor of the application. We'll also include the specific conditions of approval that council has placed on the development agreement, which includes the gravel extraction as part of the development and the RR zone designation for the western parcel. And it'll also recognize the motion and second and the vote on the development application.
Okay, any questions of staff?
Yeah, I have two questions.
Okay.
Does the gravel extraction have any hours that it's approved for?
We never put it in our development agreement.
Is that a city thing that would have restrictions anyway?
Just,
Mr. Mayor and Council, we have standards in our code.
That's what I'm asking.
Yes, and so by you guys allowing the gravel extraction, we will place those conditions on there.
but nothing more stringent like what happened on Bent Lane next door on the ranch.
That's all I'm asking.
Yep.
And why are we doing this approval tonight?
Mr. Mayor and Council, the applicant had requested that staff include the findings of fact due to the fact that staff's going to be out of the office for the next 2.5 weeks. And with our upcoming schedule, staff didn't feel it was necessary to delay the findings because we can't get the annexation ordinance approved until the findings are approved by the council and the 14-day appeal period moves forward. The applicant would like to pull his building permit now rather than doing it through Canyon County. And so staff felt it was in the best interest of the city to speed up the process.
Okay, any further questions? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion.
Mayor Chadwick,
Councilman Nielsen,
having reviewed the findings of fact and conclusions of law and finding them consistent with the decision made tonight on this application, I move that we approve the findings of fact and conclusions of law for files AZ 24-01 and DA 24-01.
okay, we have a motion, we have a second.
Second.
We have a motion, a second by Councilwoman Solomon. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Wheelock.
Aye.
Salmonson.
Aye.
Nielsen.
I
Okay, that motion carries. Thank you. It is 9:47. With all business being included on here, we are adjourned.